Joining us now to discuss this tour to the Middle East and all of the other news coming out of this briefing a moment ago, Deputy Executive Director at the National Security Institute, Martha Miller. Welcome to you. Thank you so much for your time. So this trip takes on even greater importance given some of the topics the president just discussed. He'll be in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, in Qatar, and possibly the news this morning in Turkey to talk about the bloodshed between Ukraine and Russia. How significant is this trip, and what are the expectations?
Yeah, so so his trip to the Middle East is, it's probably, it's less about conflict resolution, although I think Turkey could throw a bit of a monkey wrench into that. But this is really largely about capital infusion into the United States. I think President Trump is betting that Gulf investment is key to projecting American power and jumpstarting our economy. And these are massive investment pledges. But I think the concern is they're aimed at some strategic sectors like AI, AI and defense manufacturing included. And so, if managed well, these funds could strengthen our economy and create jobs and accelerate tech innovation. But they also raise some security concerns. I think we need robust oversight through, tools like the CFIUS process to make sure that our national security wouldn't be compromised for the sake of short-term or shorter-term financial gains. It's also interesting, this trip does not involve any meetings with Netanyahu or Israeli officials. So that's certainly a message to Netanyahu that you're not the only game in town. And then, of course, there's the jet controversy with this potential Qatari gift. That's creates all sorts of legal and ethical concerns that are real, and not to mention budgetary concerns, because the Air Force would need to cover the cost of any modifications necessary to ensure that it meets all the security standards.
Right. I think just the logistics of receiving a gift like this. Has anything like this ever happened, and what would that require here in the U.S. based on security or congressional approval? I'm not even quite sure what.
Yeah, my understanding is this is unprecedented. I think there is something called the emoluments clause. And I think some people argue that the gift would violate bans on federal officials accepting foreign gifts without congressional approval. So it would, ostensibly this should require congressional approval, which that's going to be an interesting question in this, piece. Does the president seek congressional approval for this? I kind of doubt it. Will Congress assert itself and say he needs congressional approval? That's that's something that Congress needs to ask themselves if they're going to assert their role and power. Obviously this potentially could normalize, foreign gifts that could potentially at least have the appearance of foreign influence on U.S. foreign policy.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot we don't know, but certainly a headline that will come out of today's remarks from the White House. Martha Miller, thank you for your perspective this morning. Appreciate it.